Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, and very good evening to everyone joining in today. This is JW, our go-to-market manager at Entytle. We're going to go ahead and get this discussion kicked off today. So with that, we'll go over to the rules of the road. Awesome. So some rules of the road. Please use the Q&A area for questions to the speakers. You'll find that Q&A button at the bottom of your screen, along with all other buttons on your Zoom bar. There's also a chat button you can use to raise any technical issues during the course of the event. And we'll go ahead and get the recording to this and the deck we're going to use today sent out afterwards. And with that, I'll go ahead and introduce our speaker of the day. Rohit, or Roy, as he is more popularly known, is the head of customer success here at Entytle and takes care of our EU business. Roy has spent 2 decades in the technology and industrial automation space at companies like Schneider Electric and Thales. He was also the founder and CEO of Mashik, which was a technology provider for the aftermarket before joining Entytle. Roy, thanks so much for leading this today. Over to you.
Thank you, JW, and good evening, everybody. I've spent about 16 to 18 years working aside OEMs across the world. I started in Asia, moved to Europe, and with Entitle's customers, I also work quite significantly with our American customers. And I'd say one of the things that I noticed that is different about the industrial OEM base is that, about 80% of all the new equipment sales that happen for this industry is mostly with existing customers. So the largest customer base are companies that you're already working with in one form or the other. And on top of that, about 25 to 30% of the revenue, the overall revenue, is also actually coming from the aftermarket, which is spare parts services primarily. And when you see the scale of all of that together, right, it's a pretty important element in terms of how well you know your customers. And that's a combination of multiple things. So you need to know not just who your customers are or the contacts, which is, I think, the easy part. But then OEMs, I think they have the added complexity of equipment that are not simple things that you sell like an iPhone, although an iPhone is complex as well. It's just that the product and the definition of what the customer wants through RFPs and so on is something that goes over multiple weeks, sometimes multiple months. And the knowledge and the insights associated with the technical parts of the product, as well as all of the different interactions that your company is having with your customers across services, across the spare parts transactions, across all of the other conversations that are happening with regards to design and co-design, all of these things have an outsized impact on the success of a sale quite often. And therefore, what's something that is natural is a lot of OEMs have over the past decade invested in CRM. And that makes perfect sense because that's the perfect place to get started in consolidating everybody's knowledge and interactions with your customers. And that's, I think, it's a good first step. But typically what we've also seen is that these CRM systems are primarily focused on driving the sales process. So I just pulled up a standard dashboard for most salespeople on Salesforce. And you're looking at, of course, where in the sales pipeline are the different opportunities and who are the customers. Are we what's the forecast for the month? What's the forecast for the quarter? Are we hitting our targets? And by sales rep, by region, and so on, right? And this is critically important. And it's focusing on the efficiency and the effectiveness of the sales part. And it's a necessary input for management. So that's great. But then when you go from there and you're basically starting to break down where you are in a specific sales process, you're also looking at different things about the customer itself, regarding the account, regarding the value of the deal. All of this is, again, fundamental to any sales process. But if I am an individual sales manager and I am actually interested in the health of my deal, then just having a full view of all of the different opportunities that me and my team are chasing is only half the way forward. The hardest part is what I've described earlier, which is basically for the sales team to also have, with a single view, a full 360-degree view of everything that's happening with that customer. And while Salesforce and other CRM systems are capable of doing it, just getting all of that different data into the system is a massive project, because you have systems like ERPs where the transactions are, you have service execution software that is sometimes separate. A lot of the service notes are in Excel. The spare part discussions are happening with the order desk, and that's probably going straight into the ERP systems where the orders are coming in. And if you don't bring all of that in one place, it's going to be very hard for you to have a conversation with your customer about a specific equipment that they have in a specific site. That may have an outsized impact on what they're going to buy next with you, or what is the ongoing discussion that you're having. And that's the problem that we set out to solve. But before I do that, I want to throw a little quiz to just make this a little bit more interactive, and also to understand where you are in this picture, right? So roughly how many systems do your sales teams have to look at or click through in order to have a single view of any of their customers? Feel free to answer it. We'll keep it open for another 15 seconds. I hope that's enough time. If you have a single source of truth, you're already in the promised land. But if you've chosen any of the others, there is obviously work to do. Okay, great. 3 to 5. Okay, that's actually pretty standard, I would say. You have at least an ERP system, you have a service system, and ideally you probably also have other systems where you have your support data that is being logged. Great, thank you. And this is actually going to be interesting for your sales teams precisely for this. I've been in sales, and one of the most frustrating things is actually this, that Joe from services had this issue with the customer, and the customer wasn't happy about it. It was about a specific equipment, and they're actually buying 3 more of those. You want to be able to convince the customer that the new equipment that they're going to buy from you is from the next generation, where you've actually worked on solving precisely those kind of problems. Or it could be related to spare part pricing, which could then impact, for example, the amount of safety stock that they want to negotiate in the new equipment that they're contract that they're buying. Or it could be that and this is something that I personally felt, when you're a key account manager and you're managing through your sales teams in different locations, a major customer like a Nestle or a BMW or whatever, one of these large companies, they have, and they are starting to consolidate purchasing, and they have access to analytics across what they're doing across the world with their suppliers, and they're asking for the strategic accounts teams to do more. And it's very hard for a strategic account manager, a global strategic account manager, or a GAM, to basically be able to pull up in one quick summary everything that all of the different sales teams across all of the different countries are doing with the customer, right? And those are typically the challenges that a vanilla implementation of any CRM does not solve in the first step. And it's usually in your journey of adopting and doing better CRM, it usually comes a little later. And that's basically what we've seen, and what's been informing our product development as well as we've been working on in the last couple of years. What we've let me pull that up. I think the most fundamental challenge, right, is this. Inside every company, there is a lot of knowledge. That knowledge is sitting in different systems as data, and more frequently, it is sitting in the minds of the most experienced people in the company. These are often customer sales, strategic account managers. It could be the service teams, the help desk teams, or even the order desk teams. Now, if only there was a way for, as the famous saying goes, if only what HP knew what HP knows, or HP knew what HP knows. If only there was a way for every customer-facing professional in the company, across sales, across services, across all of the different parts of the company that actually touch any part of the customer's processes. If there was a way for each of them to have, at a click of one mouse click, or at the tip of their fingers, all of the knowledge that is across the company that they should have access to, right? That is basically the promised land that we realize a lot of companies that want to work with us are looking for. And while we do that with Entytle Insights, we realized that a lot of them wanted to have all of those capabilities where they're working with their customers, which is their CRM systems. So in a nutshell, what we understood was that there is a need, I would say, to bring together commercial information and technical information about the customer. So commercial information about the customer, the contracts, the assets that they've purchased, the parts that they've purchased, and so on. But also the technical information, which is here are the kind of equipment that the customer has acquired from us. Here are the bill of materials for those equipment. And then also the life cycle of the parts in the bill of materials, where quite often, and I heard that today, and it's actually true, most of the industrial equipment survive a lot longer on the field than most IT installations do inside your company. You replace IT systems of any kind every 5 to 6 years when your equipment live on the field for 20 years. So all of the data that accumulates in all of these different systems that you've graduated from over the years, and if you're able to bring all of that in, and if you're able to actually say, I sold an equipment 15 years ago, here is the bill of materials with the parts list that was in that equipment. But here are the 30 parts that are relevant for services that have been replaced multiple times in their life cycle. They become obsolete, the original ones. But today, here are the parts that have been replacing each of those parts in that journey. And today, if I want to sell a certain part from 20 years ago or 15 years ago, this is the part number that I should be actually quoting for. That is the level of ease that service people are looking for. And that is also true, I would say, for strategic accounts and new equipment sales. This is what I believe a lot of companies are looking for and are trying to achieve this in their deployment or in the implementation of their CRM. And that's a journey that we are trying to kind of accelerate for you on Salesforce. And I'll spend the next couple of minutes just quickly showing you what you can actually do with what we built just now. Let me just leave the slide deck and I'll get right to it on Salesforce. Just give me a second. I guess you still see my system. So here we are. This is your Salesforce. This is a specific customer location, what is called accounts in Salesforce. And like in any typical implementation, you do manage the contact information for the customer, the different opportunities that you have, that you're working on or that you've just worked with the customer on, additional details about the customer and your the typical data that you capture for your customer. Now, this is something that we expect most OEMs have implemented in their CRM, especially in their Salesforce. But then, like I said earlier, it still leaves your sales teams wanting that next level of information, which is what are the specific equipment that this site has? What are the parts that are in those equipment? What are the transactions that they have incurred, or what have they purchased from us as parts and services because of the equipment that they already have? Which of these service contracts are active? Which of them are not? And that's basically what we are bringing to the same, I would say, conversation with the IB Intelligence product that we've just released. Now here, you're able to see in one click all of the different equipment that you have seen that the customer has purchased, the top 3 opportunities that you're working on, the last transactions that the customer had with you, what did they purchase, what was the value, and when it was. You're able to also look at, for example, the equipment age at the site. So you can see that they made a big purchase in 2021. They seem to make a purchase every 5 to 6 years. So you're probably going to come up with an RFP next year. So you want to be in that conversation early so you can actually influence what they specify. That's one. And you're also looking at their purchasing behavior as it pertains to parts, as it pertains to services. So you can see that they were traditionally a company that didn't really purchase services, but they are starting to purchase service contracts from you. So you're able to see that kind of trend as well. All of this as your customer location-centric dashboard. So this gives your sales team a pretty good idea straight out of the bat as to what you're doing or what they're doing with their customer in that location. Now, the next step would be, hey, what are the specific equipment that they do have? And all of that gets served in one place. You can see not only what they have and the specific serial number, which is interesting because typically as soon as a customer calls, you, especially in services, the first question you ask is what serial number you're talking about. So you already have that list here, and this You click through to see more information about it. You can see all of the parts that have been transacted upon. What are the recent set of parts that they've bought? When did they buy it? How many pieces? All of the information that you generally store in your ERP is served out here. Of course, around services, active service contracts. But most interestingly, I would say, is this part, which is what are the opportunities that we believe you should be chasing with this customer. So we have a lot of intelligence and algorithms that are actually a form of AI that we are using, which enables us to identify buying patterns as well as look at the buying patterns of a cohort of customers that have a similar install base as this customer, one of your customers that would be. And then basically to see, is this customer buying enough, buying at the same frequency or not, and generate additional leads for you to basically then chase additional leads. And this is on top of the leads that your sales team generates by themselves by talking to customers. These are algorithmic leads that you can then promote and follow in the CRM itself. And another interesting part is what I was telling you earlier, which is that you now have the ability to bring the entire bill of materials for all of the equipment that are in that location. And then, of course, if you clicked on the specific equipment, you would be able to see the specific parts associated with that equipment as well in one place, including the obsolescence information. So as you see here, these were the original part numbers when you shipped the equipment. And this is the current part number that has replaced over multiple different obsolescence cycles. So this part today, you will be able to sell, you'll be able to replace with this part. So all of this kind of information is managed today by Entytle and served into Salesforce, where your customer-facing teams have access to all of this information so they can help you serve your customers better. I'll stop there. If you have any questions, I'll open it up for you. This is pretty much the agenda for today's presentation. I hope it was useful, but I'm happy to answer questions that you may have.
Awesome, Roy. Thank you. We did get a couple of questions here for you.
Sure.
The first one, do you offer this integration only to Salesforce or to other CRMs as well?
So that's a good question. We today we offer this on Salesforce, and that's primarily because, honestly speaking, the vast majority of our customers are Salesforce customers. We do have customers that use Microsoft CRM, so that is in the works. We are working to build something similar on and serve this up on Microsoft CRM as well. But as of today, it is on Salesforce. Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. And the other one is, where is the data stored, on Salesforce Cloud or on yours?
That's a very good question. So as we're building this is stored on our databases in our data center. So this is on our cloud instance. We serve this up into Salesforce. But then we do have customers that are discussing data cloud with Salesforce. And as part of that discussion, we will support, I would say, having this information in data cloud if that's what the customer wants. At least for what we're doing with Salesforce right now. That's definitely something that we plan. It's going to be in the end the customer that will decide.
Awesome. Okay, I think those are all the questions we have in for now. Anything else you want to add as closing remarks?
I'll only say this. I think in the end, the more information that a sales or any customer-facing person has at their disposal without having to skip through multiple different systems simply makes their life easier, makes their ability to focus on solving the customer's problems that much higher. And that in turn will obviously lead to more sales and more happy customers. And that's in a way what we set out to serve initially as Entytle, and that remains our mission. I think there's another question.
Awesome. Yeah, one more question just came in. So having access to Entytle, yeah, you see that one?
Yeah, I see it. I'll answer it. So yeah, so I know Trillium. Indeed, you're a great customer. So I know you're using Insights, and I know you have Salesforce. We have spoken about it to Paul. I believe you've had certain discussions internally, and if that is of interest, we are more than happy to enable this for you. I hope that helps, Rajendra.
All right. Doesn't look like any other questions in for the time being. Thank you, Roy, for the presentation, and folks will get this recording and deck sent out to you later today.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much for your time.